Hey again, everybody. Welcome to another edition of Wheel of Albums. It's a podcast where we spin a wheel of the 1001 albums you must hear before you die. Then we listen to that album. Me, my brother Adam, our friend Jack. This is our 69th album, and this is the end of another chapter. It's the end of chapter 3, season 3. This week, the wheel was spun by brother Adam. He spun the classic punk album from the Sex Pistols, Never Mind The Bollocks. Here's the Sex Pistols. Guys, let's dive in.
Well, I'm Blymead. And if Blymead means excited for this season 3 finale with arguably the biggest album we have done yet.
1977's Never Mind The Bollocks. Here's the Sex Pistols.
I mean, we usually do initial reaction, but what can you say about this album? If you're a music enthusiast, you know all about Never Mind The Bollocks. So it's a matter of giving it its proper listens and seeing if it still sounds good to these ears.
I had a subsequent compilation album called Flogging a Dead Horse that had 4 or 5 of the songs from Bollocks on it. But we're going to find out when I revisit it to see if they are the bad boys or if they're just bad.
Does it stand the test of time, or like the Queen, has it faded away to the pages of history?
Adam, you're our professor. Why don't you get us to the origins of punk? Where does that word come from? Give us some connotation about what that means.
Oh, well, hello there. Professor Howell here again to explain punk rock. Punk rock is a music-driven subculture that emerged in the mid-1970s with bands like the Sex Pistols and the Clash. It is defined by anti-establishment themes, a do-it-yourself ethic, and fast stripped-down instrumentation. Beyond the music, it represents a philosophy of extreme non-conformity, individual freedom, and direct rebellion against corporate and societal norms.
It's safe to say the Sex Pistols are probably a band that fits all those definitions. Oh no, you have something in your hand. What do you have?
I have a little checklist for us to go over.
All right, pen and paper ready.
For punk rock, it's got all about the economy and the speed. Songs are typically short, fast-paced, and feature simple, raw chord structures rather than complex, lengthy solos.
Okay, well, none of the songs on here top the 4-minute mark, Adam. There's nothing like a Yes song like Yours Is No Disgrace or anything.
Raw production. Musicians prioritize raw energy over technical polish.
I think over time this album sounds a little more polished than maybe when it first came out, but still it has that energy that makes it feel raw.
Lyrical content. Lyrics are confrontational, focusing heavily on political anger, societal alienation, and anti-authoritism.
I mean, Johnny Rotten has a gift for speaking up against the norm of rubbing people away they might not be comfortable with a hefty amount of snarl. Arr.
Sex Pistols get 100% and A+. They checkmark all the boxes for what is a great punk rock album.
Punk.
When I think of the Sex Pistols, I think of Ruffians for sure. So that is where the origins of punk comes from.
Well, the professor's enlightened us. Let me tell you, my introduction to punk was not this record. There was an episode of WKRP in Cincinnati, maybe 79, 80, 81. There was a band called Scum of the Earth that was visiting Cincinnati. They were all, dressed nice. And they go, oh, these are punks. And they were expecting the worst. And in walk these gentlemen. And then later they turn the tables and they show themselves to be the rambunctious, dangerous, violent punks that everybody has warned you about.
For me, it's easy. I remember the first punk I ever came across was Vivian from the Young Ones on MTV, whenever they played that back in the mid to late 80s. So if you asked 12-year-old me, what's punk to you, I would point to Vivian from the Young Ones on the television and say, that's it, because my dad doesn't have any Sex Pistols in his collection. But a healthy amount of James Gang and Mountain. So cut to the chase. Vivian, back to him. He's pretty much portraying Johnny Rotten as he was with the Sex Pistols. How important is Johnny Rotten with the Sex Pistols? Is this a redundant question? I mean, they're touring right now in 2026 without him.
Johnny Rotten's really just transitioned into a grumpy old man at this point. Upset that he's getting round ice cubes instead of squares or something.
To me, Johnny Rotten is the Sex Pistols, and without him, you've got 3 guys playing some punk rock, but Johnny Rotten is the spine of the Sex Pistols. Johnny's lyrical delivery is so in your face and raw that it feels like he is using a shiv to cut you up through the entire album.
Johnny Rotten was like a professional wrestler. He sold that kayfabe all the way. He may have even believed some of it, or he may have mesmerized himself into believing it and just became this oppositional, defiant person that for some reason they kept sticking on TV and then kept thinking today's not the day. He'll act like the perfect gentleman today. They wanted him to dance and be the fool and be the angry lad, and he went above and beyond what they wanted for their ratings. He both sold and created a huge detriment to the band.
He by far is the most ferocious and brutal frontman of the 1970s and maybe of all time. An award on Sid Vicious. I like the quote, if Johnny Rotten was the voice of punk rock, then Sid Vicious was the attitude. And it seems like he was more there as a stage presence and to see what chaos he could bring on stage. Sid Vicious should have been Sid Rotten because he was a rotten bass player.
Sid Vicious almost gets too much credit for the Sex Pistols. It's almost like they even, if you were doing a news story on the Sex Pistols, they may show Sid Vicious footage.
And for an album I'm pretty familiar with, I think that's what I took away the most from research and listening was just how little Sid Vicious had to do with this album.
I think the only member of the band to be accused of murder. They started getting together in 75. This album doesn't come out until 1977. And by the time the album comes out, the other bass player has left. They hire Sid Vicious, presumably because of attitude and looks, the Johnny Bravo treatment. Steve Jones is playing bass on a lot of the songs on the record. Matlock's playing bass on some. And Vicious, I think they claim, plays on 2.
So do we need to give a tip of the cap to the contributions of the other members of the Sex Pistols that aren't named Sid Vicious and Johnny Rotten? And I say, hell yeah, they need a tip of the cap. The music they made was brutal and savage and fit Rotten's lyrics perfectly.
I'm all for the entire band, pre-Sid Vicious, to get accolades. Let's hear it for them, boys. Raise your glass.
I mean, Rotten delivers so many lines that are memorable every time I go back and listen to this, but what I really enjoyed this week was getting into guitar riff after guitar riff that I forgot I loved so much on just about every single song on this album. I sometimes find myself humming or mouthing out guitar lines from Pretty Vacant or something like Holidays in the Sun. And
especially Steve Jones. I mean, if you need an example of his guitar shredding, go listen to the end of EMI. He basically burns it down with the guitar work. He's blowing your face off with the guitar work at the end of EMI. And of course, Paul Cook is kind of the engine of the band, right? And Glenn Matlock, he should get more credit, right? I mean, he co-wrote 10 of the 12 songs and played bass on them.
The range of topics I've always found is wide and varied for 12 songs, and that's what keeps this very interesting. Never cringeworthy, and I think it's something that Johnny Lydon tried to do with Public Image Limited through the 80s. The 70s and 80s afterwards, and he could never quite nail it down the way that he did here. Sometimes he would strike gold, but sometimes that was more because of the musicianship around.
It was almost like they were using themselves as their own muse for songs. Say, well, let's go screw up a record deal with EMI, and then let's write a song about it.
When Motley Crue actually did a cover of Anarchy in the UK, and I started, I guess that was probably, middle school, high school. I don't think I ever listened to Never Mind the Bollocks until college or maybe after. And to be honest, I don't think I would have understood what it was all about listening to it later in life. Justin, Jack, how about you? Where were you or what memories do you have about Never Mind the Bollocks?
I think somebody who'd been listening in my group of friends back in the middle school days had copies of Minor Threat and Dead Kennedys and The Clash, and I'm pretty sure that this one was in here as well. Opening Soldier Stomps to Holidays in the Sun and thinking, hey, this is fun and this is a fun time. Until you really look at what the lyrics and the subject matter is and everything. And then Straight into Bodies right after that. I still think that's a great 1-2 punch. So yeah, somewhere in the 80s is wherever I got a hold of this for the first time. In college, I think me and Scott and our roommates were pretty big fans. I had a copy of it. I think all 4 of us had a copy at that point.
The Sex Pistols movie, Great Rock and Roll Swindle, you would just see it. So I knew this album existed, but the 2 songs I always remember were God Save the Queen and Anarchy in the UK, and that's probably because of video clips on TV and not from the radio or somebody saying, hey, you got to listen to this. Probably didn't hear the full album until a friend got it maybe in the mid-'80s.
So legend goes that Johnny Rotten got mad at the Sex Pistols manager because he was sick and tired of him trying to tell them what topics to sing about. So evidently in this song Submission, you would think that song is about a sexual act, but really it's about a submarine. Oh, Johnny, you're so witty. Take that, manager.
Okay, as we take a look at Professor Adams back, he has something else. Oh, another topic that you'd like to pose. Okay, go ahead, Professor Adams.
So, class, I would like to hear your thoughts on what was happening in the 1970s in the UK that made the likes of the Sex Pistols and the Clash so mad. What was going on historically in the UK that just had them really, really angry?
1977 in the United Kingdom, and I saw several events, but one sticks out in my mind, and I don't believe that Justin or Adam would pick this very same one. But in January of 1977, the Ford Fiesta car goes on sale in the UK. As you'll learn by looking into it deeper, the name Fiesta means party in Spanish. So it's a party on wheels, and it's a super mini. So it's a big party in a small package. Driving one is not a party. I've been crammed into one where you think that you could get 5 guys in there. You can't. That's probably why a lot of the punk bands were just 4-man bands.
So they were crabby over their transportation, Jack.
That 5th member, the one that would have really just took them over the edge, maybe a rhythm guitar, maybe he was playing tubular bells. He can't get in there. They can't carry his keyboards around.
Okay, when we look at the final ratings for Never Mind the Bollocks, Adam scored it highest, his first one to go over 9 with a 9.041. I gave it an 8.583. Jack, a 6.083 for an overall rating average of 7.902. This is our highest rated album after 69 albums in 3 seasons. Well done. Top 3, Anarchy in the UK, God Save the Queen, EMI, and also tied with EMI, Pretty Vacant. Our least favorite song on here, New York.
So is there a better introduction of the 70s punk rock movement in your mind? In my mind, no. There is a reason it is held in high regard. Perfectly flips off any mainstream rock at the time.
So then, Adam, is this a must-hear before you die?
No future. Then don't be a lazy sod. You must, and I mean must, listen to Never Mind the Bollocks. Here's the Sex Pistols. There really isn't anything about this album not to love. Even the song New York is great, although it's kind of a letdown after the triple threat of Anarchy in the UK, Submission, and Pretty Vacant. It just builds and builds, and it's crazy that, God Save the Queen and Anarchy in the UK aren't until the 6th and 8th song into the album, and it just holds up the entire way. Favorite line to end on? And they were all just money-making. EMI.
We've only had a couple no-brainers in 69 albums here on Wheel of Albums in 3 seasons. This is a no-brainer. It still holds up. It's still a fun album to put on and listen to. Might feel just a sliver less dangerous 49 years later. It blows up in your face, and then the Sex Pistols disappear and never release anything again. Yes, this is one you must hear before you die. Jack?
Too important a record. Have to say yes. Too dang important. And the hits are good. Holiday in the Sun is good. Problems is good. God Save the Queen, good. Anarchy in the UK, good. Pretty Vacant, good. EMI, good. Submission, good. These are actual good songs. It's just they were looked down upon because it's a snotty punks. These are good songs. Yes, yes, yes. You must listen to Never Mind the Bollocks. Here's the Sex Pistols Before You Die.
And that'll put a wrap on Season 3 of Wheel of Albums. Hey, thanks for listening along. If you are listening for the first time, as always, I'd like to ask you to subscribe on YouTube, give us a like there. Same thing on Spotify. If you want to give us a rating, follow along for new episodes almost every Monday. We will keep spending into Season 4, which will start on July 13th. Next week, we'll have a Season 3 wrap-up to take a look back at all the albums we've done for the past year. Not past year, but since January. We try to do seasons in a half a year is what we do. And my goal here in the next couple of weeks is to try to make these episodes available on Amazon and Apple Music as well. We appreciate all your support, and we look forward to bringing you our thoughts on more albums in the future here. For Justin, that's me, my brother Adam, and Jack. Have a good couple of weeks. We'll talk to you next week for a Season 3 wrap-up on Wheel of Albums.
Johnny Rotten's always complaining about his sciatica or his leg cramping up or plantar fasciitis. There's just no winning with that fellow.
Oh, well, hello there. Professor Howell here again. I have a little checklist for us to go over.